I've just bought this Monstera from the store, and as you can see, it's pretty small and expensive. I paid £12 for it, which is a little bit rich to say the least, even if it did come in this cute little pot. Thankfully, Squarespace have sponsored this video, so I'm not out of pocket, but more on them in a little bit. There's not a single leaf with any fenestrations or perforations on this bad boy. You know, the slits and holes that make people go absolutely crazy for this plant. Well, my plant friend, I'm going to show you how I set up my new Monstera like this for success to grow big and strong and develop those prize fenestrations and perforations that you can show off to all of your friends. If you've bought a new Monstera and are wondering where the heck the slits are, then just be calm, take a chill and relax. Chances are it's not you, it's the plant. Young Monsteras take a while to pucker up and start sending out leaves with fenestrations, and even longer to start showing you their holes. They're shy like that, eh? If there's one thing that sends a plant collector giddy, it's holes in the leaves of their Monstera. Instagram is awash with photos of people showing off their holy Monstera. I was that person too when a cutting I took from its mother developed a Swiss cheese leaf after a year. Not the Instagram part, the giddy part. It's exciting, I know, but all you can do is be patient. Well, I should say the main thing. There are a few things you can do to speed up its adolescence, but we'll get to that in a little bit. As you can see, the Monstera I've bought is clearly very young, and it probably won't send out a fenestrated leaf until next year, and that's fine. I'm pretty zen about it, still a baby after all. But who knows, maybe that new leaf that's unfurling now will be the first. Please! So, what are those cheat codes for turning our little fella into a young man? First thing you need to do is grab your plant and say, "Come here, you mother sucker," and start chopping with your scissors. Only joking, don't treat your Monstera with disrespect, it will disrespect you right back. But yes, your Monstera will have suckers that you should prune off in an ideal world. I don't mean to start pruning the main leaves away, that's a bad idea and I'll come back to why shortly. Instead, I'm talking about the little baby leaves that are acting like hangers on and sucking the juice away from the main stem. Sucking the juice away is a little bit dramatic, they're not quite that bad, but they do take energy away from the main stem of the plant. They were useful to the plant when it was younger, but as it gets older and grows longer, those little leaves can be pruned away. I did this recently to my large Monstera in my bedroom in a recent Patreon video. Not a shameless plug, I promise. Well, maybe a bit. The point is, I had tons of hangers on, like groupies hanging around an aging band.
We are not groupies.
That needed to be told to leave. I got my pruners out, gave its beard a trim, and now the plant is looking much tidier and it can focus all its energy on producing new leaves at the tips of the stems. You should start this nice and early, as I'm doing with my plant, cutting away the tiny baby leaves near the base. And don't be shy here, cut away anything you don't like the look of, but leave the latest leaf alone. So why don't we want to prune the main stems back? This is something I've stopped doing to all of my Monsteras, and I suggest you do the same, unless you want to propagate it, in which case you have my permission. Think of your Monstera in the same way as a fine wine. The older it gets, the more full-bodied it becomes. Or less full-bodied, I guess. I don't know. The point is, fenestrations come with age, and cutting back a stem stops it in its tracks, and a brand new stem is born below where you made the cut. This new stem will be juvenile and probably won't have the fenestrations for the first couple of leaves. You've basically started the aging process all over again. You've Benjamin Buttoned it. It's best to just leave them be and let them sprawl all over your house. To get the best Monstera, it's a great idea to give it the right support from an early age. I don't mean emotional support, I mean physical support, in the shape of something to climb up. If you've ever tried to support a large Monstera, you'll know just how cranky and inflexible they can be. Just like trying to get your 90-year-old granddad into a nursing home so he stops starting fires in his home. They're not as flexible as they used to be and don't have the give to wrap themselves around the pole. Your Monstera, not your granddad. Start young like I'm doing with my plant and it's much easier to control. It doesn't have to be a moss pole either. Anything sturdy that you can tie the stems to. A tree trunk from your garden will do a job. I've got this tall, slender plank of wood that I'm going to attempt to shove into the pot and tie my plant to. While I'm doing that, let's have a chat about Squarespace, who are providing funds for the unreasonably expensive Monstera and plank of wood you see in this video. This plank of wood was £7, you know. I've been using Squarespace to set up a website to make it easier to share my love of houseplants with the wide world, as well as a place to list all the ways you can give me money to support the channel. There's already a couple of blog posts for you to read while you're eating your lunch at work. It's a breeze to use if you want to share your experience with the world, and I recommend you do. Even a wally like me had it all set up in less than an hour using their many templates to choose from. Just drag and drop everything into place and adjust to your heart's content. You can get a very handsome 10% discount on your first domain or website purchase. Just check out the details in the description. Happy exploring. And there she is. It might look a bit silly now because it's so small, but over time that plank of wood will be a lifesaver, trust me. You kind of want to position your stake along the back of the plant so they can sprawl up it, and try to avoid tying up the newest leaf. This is where the next leaf will sprout from, and you're essentially tying its arms behind its back. The point of doing all this is that vining plants want to grow up something. It's how they grow in nature. They grow up and around their host tree, suffocating it like a boa constrictor suffocates its prey. A happy, suffocating vining plant growing up something will grow quicker and produce bigger leaves. Look at the Monstera in my bedroom as an alternative staking system. I say system, but I've just got the stems growing up this contraption of 3 bamboo sticks that I've somehow tied together with string, but it does seem to be working. I think it looks okay anyway. Now, aerial roots. What the bejesus do we do with aerial roots? The easy thing would be to just cut them off, and no, that doesn't harm the plant in any way. It's an option, but cutting them off is a bit of a waste, especially on a fledgling plant like mine. Nope, it's a much better idea to encourage them to grow into the soil. You see, Monsteras use their aerial roots to grip onto their host tree in the jungle, and they actually absorb nutrients along the way. It's like a double dipper delight. It strengthens the stem so it can continue along its merry way. We can mimic this by directing the aerial roots into the soil, and this can lead to stronger, quicker growth. You can see this already happening on my plant with 3 aerial roots growing into the soil, and look, they've got a younger brother trying to make its way there too. It looks like he's heading in the right direction and should have no problem joining his brothers, but if one is going astray, like a baby duckling losing sight of the pack, they just put him on the straight and narrow so he can find his way. With all these relatives moving in, the house will get pretty crowded pretty quickly, so just check it's not too pot bound. You might need to move them on from their terraced house to a semi-detached so they can spread their wings, and a check once a year will do the job. Without light, there will be no Monsteras. The single biggest factor when it comes to fast plant growth is light. You've heard this all the time, of course, but it is true. You can give your Monstera all the food it wants, proper fatting him up with 5 meals a day, but if he's not getting some good old vitamin D from the sun, he's just not going to grow big and healthy. Monsteras love bright light. The more light you give it, the more fenestrations and perforations it will eventually develop. So where am I going to put mine to achieve such a thing? To be honest, I have no idea. I don't really have room in my home for any more plants, and all the good spots are taken up. I've really got to stop buying plants. In an ideal world, I'd have it in front of my west-facing window, but that's some prime real estate right there, so we're just going to have to settle for a spot on my fireplace mantle. It's not too bad, little friend. You'll have some sun rays at the end of the day, I promise. In all seriousness though, this isn't the greatest spot for it. Why? Because it can't see much of the sky. Get on all fours and see how much of the sky your plant can see. Not a lot? Then try moving it somewhere nearer the window. And for this new addition to the household, I'm going to try and do something I very rarely do to my plants, even though I say you should in my videos. Yep, keep them clean. I really don't do this enough and it shows. Things get pretty mucky around here. I know, it's not a great look, but life gets in the way, I guess. Is that a good excuse? A hose down every couple of months will keep the dust and mites off, and it'll thank me by growing really fast, won't you? Now that I've got my little fella all tied up, all climbing up a plank of wood and in place on my fireplace mantle, that's not quite light enough for it. I'm just going to leave it there. I'm not going to tinker with it and rotate it 93.6 degrees every 4.5 days. Nope, I'm going to leave it be. I'll give him a drink when he's parched, but that's it. I won't even acknowledge its existence. Sounds harsh, but it's the best thing for him, even if he doesn't think so. Nope, rotating a Monstera doesn't really do any favours for it. The stems will twist and turn, you'll have leaves at 6s and 7s. Instead, leave it to face in one direction so that all the leaves face the same way. If you have it against the wall like me, this makes it a lot easier and you won't have to be constantly looking at its backside, which is a bonus. I've started doing this to most of my climbing plants and they're much happier for it. Just look at my Adansonii, the younger, uglier brother to the Deliciosa, and marvel at how great it looks. Ignore the damaged leaf for a moment, I'm not sure what that is to be honest, and just focus on the leaves. And look, the area roots are growing into the wood that's supporting it. Cool, no need to continue tying it up. A word on soil before I let you get on with the rest of your day. As with most aroids, Monsteras love a chunky mix. Aroid? What's an aroid? They're a family of plants that contains all your favourites like Monstera, Philodendron, Alocasias, Anthuriums, and they all want a super chunky mix that doesn't hold on to too much water. Soggy soil equals rotting roots, which equals plant death, which equals therapy, let alone slow growth. Not pretty. I've been trialling cyber soil recently because they tried to bury my house in all the soil they sent me, and I must say, it's a very nice mix. Because I'm a helpful soul, and to make it easier on the wallet for you, I've managed to bag a 10% discount on all their products. Details are in the description as always. And if you're looking to level up your houseplant care, but you crave all the information you need in one place, rather than scattered all over YouTube, then have a look at my Houseplant SOS course that I'll link to on the screen. It's great fun and you'll learn tons of awesome tips.